welcome to Sji Live. Thank you so much for joining. So good to see you. So good to have you all here on this amazing inspirational conversation on repertoire. And as you know, Sji is dedicated to continuous professional development. We are the team of like-minded individuals, jazz vocalists who teach all over the world. And hello, girls, and if you would like to introduce yourself individually, that'd be great.
My name is Lauren Lee. My personal Instagram for my gigs is Thoroughly Modern Lauren. And like Elena said, my teaching Instagram is called Sing Like a Horn. I'm a vocalist and composer, piano player, educator. I live in New York City in Harlem. And I'm very excited to be here with you all today. I love traveling. I love meeting people from all over the world. I've taught students from many countries and done gigs and stuff, so I love having a global community. So I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. And Lauren actually has a book that we're going to talk about later. Next, we're going to talk about Lusine, all the way from Italy. Lusine, welcome.
Okay, so I'm based to Italy, and before I in Armenia as an Armenian, and I'm a vocalist. And I would like to tell you thank you for inviting me for this live. I'm so excited, and I would try to share like all tips and important things that I'm thinking about of constructing the repertoire. And I'm sure this is going to be an interesting conversation with all of you guys.
Thank you so much, Lusine. And I just wanted to also say that Lusine has amazing vocals that she also shares on her Instagram. You guys would fall in love with her voice too if you just follow her. The last but not least, Melanie, all the way from England. And Melanie is my student of almost 3 years. So Melanie, welcome.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's been a lot of fun. I must say, I've learned a lot with Elena. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I'm very much a beginner. I haven't really done many performances. Most of the things I've done have been related to acting and stage and things like that in the past, including in New York, the Financial Follies, and also pantomimes and things. But I'm getting more into the vocal side, and I feel like I'm very much here to learn today, and I want to understand repertoire, because I was planning a little event with some friends where we're going to be singing. So I'd like to get more ideas about how to put something together. I think so. That's where I'm coming from. I'm very much in a learning mode.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And just to also say a couple of words about Melanie, she's very modest because she's been performing, singing for a long time. I know you were saying that it's all for friends, but also it's for, expressing yourself. It's for fun, of course, but also you've done such a great progress in terms of your development, vocal development. Do you feel that in 3 years, you just kind of feel you opened up and learned so much, which is my pleasure, of course, but also it's great for me to see the actual progress.
Yeah, I really feel like I've learned a lot. I mean, I didn't realize that, when I started, I didn't realize there was so much to learn. But that's exciting too, right? The discovery process.
Absolutely. And I'm a great believer in learning new things, because for me, it's basically about rejuvenation of our, nervous system. Apparently, neurological connections happen when we learn something new, and we grow kind of younger. Like Oscar Wilde said, it takes time to get young. So we're getting younger with singing.
I think, yeah, and I think for all, I'm a mature student in this process. So I think for all people out there who are older, don't think you're too old to learn something new. Definitely, if you want to do it, go for it.
Absolutely.
I'd say
This is how we get younger. Why wouldn't you? So my first question goes to all of you. Let's start with Lauren. How do you choose the repertoire?
So my personal choices are varied. I really love music from the 1960s, jazz and otherwise. I grew up listening to things like that. My parents listened to, well, we called them oldies because they were, my parents were kids in the 60s. So, I loved the Mamas and the Papas, and I loved
Big
Simon
thumbs up.
Garfunkel, Janis Joplin, and so that type of music has made its way into my what I choose personally. But also, I really love jazz from that time period too. So Joe Henderson and John Coltrane and people like that, and I write lyrics a lot to those compositions because they're instrumental, and I can write the lyrics about something personal for myself that will resonate with the audience, and I can share music that I really care about at the same time. And like, you know, do I only sing music from the 1960s? No, but I found recently that that is kind of where I am gravitating toward more often than not these days.
Interesting. Yeah, so you're basically inspired by hippie age.
Yeah.
Me too, me too. I love Janis Joplin, and I wish I would be in Woodstock, you know, festival right now. That's an amazing kind of inspiration. I personally drew inspiration from 40s. I don't know why, but I'm very kind of attached to the 40s style. But I love the actual 40s elegance. I think, you know, this is what kind of speaks to me personally directly. So what about you, Lusine? What is your personal choice? Where do you
Well,
draw your inspiration from?
I guess at the beginning it was different. At the beginning, I was in the point when I was like more exploring and extending my program. So I followed such a good advice of a great singer, Yala Berlin.
Okay.
So she suggested me to pick up at a time one composer. Let's start like from classics. Let it be a Gershwin or maybe Cole Porter or Hodge Carmichael, Richard Rodgers, and Lawrence Hart, and to choose one of them and to start like listening as much as it possible, learning songs. And so at the beginning I started in that way, and thanks to that I got like a kind of not so big but a program. And so after that I was trying to find a personal connection, songs that would touch my heart, in which I would like feel some personal story maybe or some emotions, because at the end we're like storytellers, and when we're like singing something we're trying to tell a story, to give emotions, to get them back, and to share something. So I found it so beautiful for myself, and so I was just choosing the songs that gave me the story that I lived already, and so I was able to share it in a more deep way, and I really believe that it's arrived to listener for sure.
So you connect to your songs, and then when we listen to your gig, it's like basically having a window into your soul. Is that right?
Yes, let's say like that. Of course, it's not about each song. It can be just 2 songs in the whole program, but it's enough to give all that emotions during the gig.
Brilliant. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And what about you, Melanie? How do you choose jazz standards or just let's say songs?
Well, you know, I'm obviously quite new and still finding my way. But I think I try privately lots of different things. Um, but I think for me it's an issue of what I can technically accomplish, but also put feeling into. So I think obviously even for someone starting out, the feeling is important. Um, and I find myself I keep going back to the songs that I loved initially before I even started with lessons. You know, and also I must say, you know, Ellen has also inspired me and showed me a lot of new material, and which I've kind of incorporated into, you know, the songs that I like to sing. But I haven't really done a whole showcase
Yeah.
of songs, which I find quite daunting. But yeah, so that's sort of my experience so
Oh,
far.
thank you so much. And it's so true that we're building repertoire with Melanie right now of the songs that she never heard before. And I think it's fascinating to see the reaction of people who never, you know, not just come across a particular artist, but their whole artistry. For example, Peggy Lee, not many people know that she wrote around 200 songs, and only now her personal songs are coming up. and they're not jazz standards, right? It's not something that everybody would know and you come to a jazz jam with, right? And say, hey, play this song, and nobody knows that song, you know?
Yeah.
But it's something interesting. And so it brings me to my next question, girls. How do you bring that collection of songs to a gig? How do you build a repertoire for a certain gig? And so maybe I could start with Lusine, and maybe you can give us example of a recent gig or a specific gig you have in mind, and just tell us, like, you know, the process. How do you collect the songs for that?
I guess something that can regard like each kind of program. It doesn't matter it's recent gig or you're going to do it. There are some rules that you can follow up. And the first thing could be like the variety of styles. So don't play just swing, for example, add one tune bossa nova or maybe Latin and of course blues. Then secondly, you should pay attention how you're starting your gig. You cannot, of course you can start in each way you want, but it would be nicely to start from some medium and then to go to up tempo and then to bring a balance. So you should always keep the difference of tempos. And then of course you can also pay attention in the keys that you're playing in. So you're not playing 4 or 5 songs in the same key. So it can make the listener like feeling that it's an ending song that goes and it's not changing. You're not changing tempos. And also, I don't know, it can be, you should also pay attention the vocal range and on the instruments that you're like playing with. Because for example, sometimes I see from my experience when I was just starting singing, I could have like fell in love with some arrangement that of some song that would have been played with a big band, and I would imagine myself playing in the same way. But then at the end, I was playing with the trio or just with the in duo with piano, and it was sounding completely in a different way. So yeah, you should always consider the range of the tune that you're going to play and the instruments that are going to play with you, so you can like arrangement. Well, yeah.
Interesting. Let's say, for example, somebody's inviting you to a wedding or like, you know, some, I don't know, function, and it's a Latin night. Then what do you do?
If it's something precise, so then you don't have a lot of options to choose. Unfortunately, if you're going to play a wedding, it happens a lot that people who calls you, they require some repertoire that could be like some love songs that they used to listen for some period or something that can warm their hearts on their special day. And or basically they can just tell you, we want a music just for dancing, so you would play all songs in that tempo just to make people to dance. So it's always depends what they require from you, I guess.
All right, so I guess the next answer that I would like to get is from Lauren, because it's along the lines of rhythm and tempo. Would you agree that this is how you would play a gig, or maybe you could add something from your personal experience? How would you choose the repertoire for a specific gig? Maybe you can give us a specific example, not just, you know, hypothetical example. That'd be great.
Sure. No, I agree very much with everything that Lusine said too. One philosophy point that I keep in mind for any type of gig, whether I'm in control or it's a gig with requirements like a wedding or a restaurant or something like that. One of my favorite singers ever is Carmen McRae, and I watched a video of her speaking during a concert, and she said you have to give the audience what they think they want to hear to draw them in. Stay with me. Stay with me.
Yes,
like,
please elaborate.
So, you know, I think balancing that notion, but also finding ways to present what I want to show is something that I try very hard to do. And so it can be something like, okay, I'm singing a wedding gig and they want all of the greatest hit love songs. They want all of me. They want My Funny Valentine. They want Body and Soul, like all of the very kind of very like standards. And I'm like,
mainstream
okay, I
standards.
have to give them that because that's what they want, and that's great. How can I make that, though, mine and make it what I want to show them? And the answer is through phrasing and through vocal colors and through improvisation, arrangement, like, you know, choosing different styles. Like Lucina was talking about, like, those tunes don't all have to be swing. They don't all have to be in four either. They could, you know, you can change. There's a lot that you can do with those songs that will leave them still familiar and comforting and romantic and, you know, whatever the idea is, but you can make them yours or make
Mm-hmm.
them new or make them fun and still have that connection. So I think, you know, to answer your question, if I'm in a situation where I am being expected to sing certain songs or have a certain kind of vibe, I take that very seriously because at the end of the day, I'm a vendor, I'm giving somebody what they want. But at the same time, I want to make sure that my performance is genuine. And the way for me to do that is to put an element of myself into it.
And your element of yourself is your tempo, rhythm, and phrasing.
I think I think our teachers have given us some really good information and good answers to the questions there, and good guidance on, you know, what you can do when you're trying to choose your repertoire. Um, and I mean, obviously, Eleanor, what we've been doing is we've been working a lot, particularly on the phrasing and on making the songs our own, because previously when I first started, I felt like I was just copying other artists. And I was quite happy to do that, get up there and in costume and sing like Marilyn Monroe, or well, try to sing like Marilyn Monroe, or try to sing like Amy Winehouse or whoever. But now I'm feeling that I want to put myself into it. So obviously, if you're doing a little showcase for a group of friends, you can put yourself into it because you have complete artistic license. If you're not charging money for it, especially. But I can understand the kind of balance that you have to strike if you're doing something that's commissioned. It's quite an interesting point where people may want a certain style, and then if you can bring your own knowledge and in your own interpretation into that, I think you create a richer experience for your guests. And that goes back, I guess, to what you were saying about you know, give them what they think they want to hear. And yeah, I think there are a lot of takeaways from everything that you both had said about rhythm and about mixing it up as well. And don't just because you're comfortable maybe with one's particular style, try and mix it up a little bit if you can. I think even if you're a beginner like me, it would be good to do things in slightly different tempos and you know, and I think also to, you know, I don't want to go on too much because we want our teachers to talk more, but also perhaps to bring things that they haven't heard before, like Eleanor was saying about Peggy Lee. Perhaps some of those songs aren't so well known, so give them things that they can relate to and that they know, but also perhaps throw in a few that people haven't heard before. And obviously with our teachers, you're writers too, so you can bring your own material, which is fantastic, and I hope to be able to do that one day. um, but you know, so yeah, that's my answer, I guess.
Thank you so much. No, that's basically a great answer and also great food for thought, isn't it? You just kind of starting to understand how much kind of goes into it. And I think in terms of commission, personally, for me, it's give and take. Like Lauren was saying, you know, I have to make it my own. I have to enjoy it too. I'm not a machine.
Yeah.
you know, I'm not a jukebox. Hey,
Yeah.
play this one, please. And this one, please. Unless of course you prefer this type of style. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but personally not relating to that type of kind of approach, let's say, when I'm gigging. And to me, it is artistry that comes first. Absolutely. I'm an artist in my own right, first of all, and then vocalist, jazz educator. I would like to create my own art. My own creation comes first. For me personally, I have to show a little bit of myself. I have to put my heart into it, but also I would like to share it with others. And I would like to involve others. For me personally, it's like I'm inviting them into my own world. And I do take on board a lot of comments that people kind of throw my way in terms of a gig commissioned, and they want a particular kind of repertoire. Of course, I will put that repertoire, but I will also try to connect to my audience because I want them to feel the vibe. And it's strange how, you know, to be honest with you, in terms of repertoire, I agree with all of you that it comes from your heart. It has to be your story. It has to be something that you can relate to in terms of lyrics, music, tempo, or, you know, style of jazz. But at the end of the day, for me personally, it is something that you are communicating to the whole world, and you can make it your own. You can always set the mood. You can make audience feel basically how your heart dictates, and that's a lot of responsibility. Don't you think so? You have to be in the right mood. You have to always clear your space, your head. You have to, you know, maybe meditate for hours or go to a green room or go on the beach and clear your head and get good emotions and work on yourself as a person, as a teacher, to bring that beautiful energy to people, which is amazing.
Way to become a singer, like a kind of advice I got, and it helped me a lot when I was just starting, is just listen to non-stop music, and not just jazz, but like generally just listen to music non-stop. And if you have an opportunity in a place you're living, just find a good place where you can hear that music live. So just go every jazz club, check, even if you live in a place where there aren't like good jazz clubs. I mean, we live in a 21st century. You can always find an opportunity even to follow live streams on internet. Like, for example, I'm not in New York, but I always love to follow the gigs on Mesro or Smalls. It always gives me, I don't know, maybe some new standards that I never heard, or I'm just enjoying evening and pretending to be there and just listening. So, and okay, first is listening, and second, if you're already in that process, try to surround yourself with musicians who are already professional, because they would always be happy to see someone who is interested in jazz, and they will share with you for sure a lot of things that will help you. So just surround yourself with musicians as much as you can, and find someone who motivates you. I don't know, someone that you can learn something from that person, and it would help a lot.
Thank you so much. And we also just got a comment from Ariane, who knows you, apparently listener, and she says, hello from Armenia. Thanks for the interesting stream, for all the useful opinions and experience you share with us. Also, I want to express my admiration for Lucine's incredible timbre. I am in love with her voice. That's so nice. Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for sharing it. And Melanie, if you have any questions.
I do have a question for the three of you, actually, as teachers. What do you do if you are in a gig and you get the sense that your audience isn't feeling it in the repertoire you're doing? Do you do you take a reading and then maybe perhaps even change what you're doing if you think that this crowd is not liking the ballad style, or they're not enjoying, you know, bossa nova or whatever, they want to hear something different? Do you switch it up, sort of, you know, on as you're performing, or do you always stick rigidly to the repertoire that you originally set out?
Such a good question.
Thanks.
Lauren, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great That's a great question, and that's something that absolutely happens. Like, and it depends on the type of gig. Like if you're doing like a listening room gig, like Lucina mentioned, watching the stream at Mesro, which is a really wonderful resource, I think, for people all over the world to watch Smalls and Mesro live streams, because you hear some really incredible stuff. Anyway, I think if you are at a gig like that, it's a little bit different. But I do a lot of like restaurant type of gigs as well, and restaurant and bar and lounge. And in places like that, I think being very adaptable with your set list is really, really important. So if I'm doing a gig like that and the crowd is very noisy and like, maybe they're drinking a lot and kind of partying or whatever, I write my set list out. If they're, woo, they're having a great time, and the next tune on my list is a ballad, I'm not going to sing the ballad. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to find one of the up-tempo tunes that's later on and put that there instead. If it's a vibe where I play sometimes at a place that's like a very popular like date lounge spot. It has couches, like very, place you take your significant other. In a place like that, it can be the opposite. Like I'll see a bunch of couples like kind of paired off, and I'm like, okay, maybe we don't do the up tempo now. Maybe we do the romantic ballad, because that seems to be the mood that everybody is in. So I think it's important to kind of try to read the room as much as you can. Sometimes, you can make adjustments, and I think everybody has a better time that way.
Absolutely, I can relate to every single thing that you're saying, and it just kind of brings pain to my head just thinking about it. What a lot of pressure we actually do experience as vocalists. Not many people actually do realize that. So Melanie, thank you so much. Kind of brings that credibility to vocalists. We're not just singers. We also manage the crowd. We're also directors of our own shows. Yes, it does come down to you as a professional. So also what I'm hearing is it's also about the question is specifically about the gigs like that, because obviously if it's a concert, I think we don't change repertoire. So like, for example, but I do have an urge sometimes, so I have an urge to change my songs during concerts, and it's not like a restaurant gig or lounge bar kind of gig. And then I remember, look, wait a second, you're not in a restaurant, you can't change the set list right now. You have to set the mood. So a different kind of, a different type of responsibility falls on my shoulders. Oh, I feel the pain again. Because I remember that time when I feel, the audience is not in the mood for the next song. And that next thought in my head goes, well, make them like it. It's your responsibility. Make them like it. Do something about connection. Share the story. Say something in between.
May I add something to this, like about sharing the story?
Yeah, so, go ahead. You can take it away from here. Yeah.
In this kind of situation, and you don't know how to handle it, it would be so nice if you would explore your program so deeply, so you can make some with your audience. For example, like I heard before, like mentioned songs like Funny Valentine. Let's take for instance, before playing Valentine, you can talk to the audience and tell them, hello people, how many of you watched the movie Pale Joy, from where Funny Valentine came from, that Rogers like what movie it was, like, if I'm not 30s, and no one would know, and you would tell, oh, I suggest you watch this movie because the main character is played by Frank Sinatra, and after he played that part he got a Golden Globe. So everybody would hear things, and they would like try to hear you more, because it's something that would attract them, because you gave them like some certain information about that song. So if you find yourself in that conditions, just don't be afraid to have a conversation with the audience, because they even imagine yourself as an audience. You like to have conversation, right? When you see like the singer, not just a robot who's coming, giving a tempo, playing the song, going away. No, don't be afraid to talk, or even bringing like personal stories around the song. Even like Kerman McRae has been mentioned before. Like there's some recording that I've been listening, I guess yesterday, for such a beautiful ballad that called For All We Know. And what she's doing, like before starting the song, she's giving a speech. She's saying, I've been playing this ballad for such many years, but I realized that I learned what this song is about when one day my friend left and he never came back. And so, and she's starting to singing that song. So when you hear something like that, it touches you so deeply that there is no way that you'll be like distracted or you'll be like tired to listen ballad. And you know, it's not true that people are not liking listening ballads. It's completely not true. It's one of the most beautiful forms, I would say. So just be scared of having a conversation with your audience.
Yeah, if Lauren, you have anything to add to everything that we talked about, that'd be great.
Yeah, I have one thing that I wanted to say, kind of very much about what we just talked about, and that is, I wouldn't, something that has really benefited my personal practice has been to practice songs, especially kind of the canon songs, the songs that everybody kind of knows. Practicing them in lots of different styles and tempos, because when you do that and you're in a situation like we're talking about where you're trying to read the room, or you're trying to make it fresher for yourself, or you're trying to make it more relatable for your listeners, you know, maybe if you did it differently than you normally do it, that will spark something. I know for me that that's the case, because if I change the tempo or if I change the key, it makes me sing completely differently. I get totally different ideas. It's a completely different neural pathway. So I think when we're talking about repertoire, it's not just the individual songs themselves or the program as a whole, but it's also how are you approaching the song in the context of that gig or whatever. So that's something that I wanted to mention. Just, I think that's been helpful for me. So I don't know if anybody watching this would be interested to do that. And you know, with iReal Pro, it's easier than ever to do that, because you just press the buttons and it does it for you, and you can hear what it sounds like, and then you know, approach the gig with that.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Absolutely, 100%. And also, you know, in terms of adding songs to your repertoire, it could be active or could be passive. You could hear a song and think, oh, that's a nice song. And you can add it, you know, you can add that song to your repertoire. Or you can actually go through lots of different recordings of one favorite artist and find something interesting, right? Because we know lots of mainstream songs, but we don't know some songs that are hidden. For example, you know, what did Ella and Louis did? There were tons of songs that are not actually playing every day, but Ella is a mainstream artist, right? And still we don't know all of her songs. So it comes down to museology, isn't it? So when we actually go through everybody's repertoire, actively we find songs that we like, but also organically when you hear the song.
What I would like to add is, like, for example, let's pretend like you heard some standard and you loved it and you want to add it to your repertoire. Great, beautiful. Just try to find the recording from where that tune, like that the recording that you heard came from. Okay, you're finding the album. Okay, then check out who's been playing with that singer in that album. Then try to listen it like the whole album day and night, until, without doing like transcriptions, you will like remember all solos, instrumental and even vocal solos. It will help a lot, because then you will find another songs that you will like, and then try to find, try to pay attention on the roots. For example, I don't know, you have a favorite singer, try to figure out with whom she's been inspired, and then you go back and you find so many new musicians that gives you so many things to learn, and it's like an ending process that will never end, and it's so fascinating, and it gives you like so many things.
Yeah, it's a wonderful Full journey, absolutely. It is a wonderful tip. I really like that. Thank you so much. Biographies spring to mind as well. Like if you have a chance to get your hands on the biography of your favorite jazz vocalist, then absolutely, by all means, do that. I want to finish by saying that Lauren has a wonderful book that I think we should talk about in our next IG Live or in one of the following IG Live. So if you guys who are watching want to know more, please give us thumbs up or give us a comment or question or suggestions, or just tell us what would you like us to talk about. Maybe we can talk about how to prepare for this song, like Lusine mentioned. Maybe it's also something that you girls or guys want to kind of hear about or contribute to. And by all means, approach us and talk to us if you want to sing jazz, if you want to be part of our collective. We're a small collective, but also our students are looked after. So Lauren, what do you think? Shall we talk about your book, or would you like to tell us a little bit about your book and what can we actually talk about next time?
We can talk about it next time. I'll give you a little hint though. I was kind of alluding to it a bit earlier, but the book is, it's all creative approaches to singing and improvising on rhythm changes. I think, you know, when we talk about repertoire as individual artists, obviously, like obviously we pick what we like, we pick what we want to do, we pick what we want to say, you know, all the things we talked about. I wanted to create a resource for the situations where maybe we are not completely in control. And one of those situations is a jam session. And what is the one tune? Well, one of the tunes that everybody knows, and it's rhythm changes. So what I'm creating is a little pack of etudes that approach singing on rhythm changes from a couple of different angles. I'm really excited about it because I think that it's something that sometimes I know for myself I overlook. I'm like, oh, I already know this tune. What am I doing working on this? And it's like, well, when I go to a session and I'm like, oh, nobody knows the same songs that I know. I guess we're doing rhythm changes. Oh no. But it does, you know, oh no does not have to be the answer. It can be, oh, cool. Well, I could approach it this way. So that's what this is about. And I'm looking forward to, I've been looking forward to speaking more about it later. And, you know, maybe once it's completed, we can talk about it, because I think it's going to be a really fun thing to dig into. So
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it sounds so fascinating, and it just kind of brings me to, you know, to, like you said, different ways of approaching the same thing. For example, improvisation. We talked about it earlier, how some people would like to have an academic approach and they would like to kind of have everything in the book written down specifically. And some people would like to improvise freely without thinking about theory so much.
Sure.
So I think what you're talking is employs all of those kind of ways, right?
Yeah.
So there are so many different ways, and I think they're all very, very beneficial and necessary. We can't just go strictly by book, or we can't just really improvise, because improvise where? Where do I start, right? Like, oh, just hear yourself. It's not possible, right? You have to have some kind of base, and everybody's different. And when you actually say, talk about repertoire of other people, to listen to their songs, what are you listening to? Are you listening to the bass line? Are you listening to the rhythm? Are you listening to the color of the voice? What are you specializing in? Or are you trying to improve in your own voice and practice? It's very important. And I think things like that would definitely encourage us to think deeper, to kind of dig deeper into the subject. So thank you so much. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Amazing. Girls, thank you so much for your time. I think it's time to wrap up. And
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll see you soon.
Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you to the audience.
Bye everybody.
Thank you.